Alright guys, Ed here with Shuttertastic, part 2. This is the Lytro desktop. It is PC and Mac compatible, is that correct?
Correct.
Alright, well why don't you walk us through, after you've shot a couple of frames there, with what is possible in the software.
Sounds good. Not only do we have this desktop software, which is free and downloadable from lytro.com, and it's Mac and PC compatible, we also have a free Lytro mobile app, and you can see our streaming content and share your own content on the mobile app if you go to the iStore. So in the desktop software, we're not trying to recreate Photoshop. What we're really trying to do is allow you to take advantage of the capabilities that are captured uniquely in this raw file format from Lytro. One of the most important is the ability to change the depth of field. So you'll see that this little slider bar it natively has been taken at f2. So an f2 image obviously has a very shallow depth of field, but with this slider bar, I can go from f1 to f16 with literally just moving that little slider bar.
That's insane.
I will tell you, I joined this company because of the slider bar, because it's really truly amazing to be able to do that. You'll notice that the slider bar here is the key to manipulating the depth of field. And as I move through the range here, all I do is move this slider bar, and it was taken natively at f2, but I can move it to f1 with a very shallow depth of field, or all the way to f16. Now if I go back to f2, you'll see that as I click through the image, I can change the focal point. I can also click and change show the perspective shift. Because I've captured this image in a level of 3D, it's got that extra layer, and that we call that perspective shift. So as I change that depth of field, I can change the focal points. I can also animate. Every image it has the ability to animate and tell a particular story. That one is very fast, but you can change how long it runs, what things are in focus, who's in focus, how long they're in focus, and what's not in focus, most importantly. Now, as I mentioned, this is a proprietary raw file format. So any of the things you can do with a raw file format, you're going to be able to do. White balance, tone saturation, etc. I mentioned that it does amazing macro. One of the things that you don't need is sorry lens baby, but you don't need a tilt shift adapter, right, because you can actually do tilt shift in here as well. I'm not going to take you through that one, but it does a great job of that as well. So I'm going to go back out here and get one different image here real quickly. Go here. One of our my favorite capabilities is what we call focus spread. Now you remember in the camera you saw the items that were in the foreground and in the background were different colors. Those represent the same kind of thing here. So I have the ability to show on my map, excuse me, oh, pause, I don't know why, my thing is just frozen. All right, I just shared with you the ability to change the aperture and the white balance, etc. But one of my favorite features is what we call focus spread. With focus spread, think of it as being able to identify the layers in an image that you want to have in focus, and then identifying all the layers you don't want to have in focus. You can do this in Photoshop with layers, and oftentimes it requires bracketing and then pulling things together in Photoshop, and it takes hours to do. In about 15 seconds, I can do the same thing that takes about 3 hours in Photoshop. The way that works, if you want to take a look at the image, is I will separate the foreground from the background. And as I move this along, you'll see that I can identify the back layer is represented in orange, and having that layer in orange back there tells me that that particular layer is going to be excluded. So that allows me to have everything else in focus. So normally you'd have to really work to get a depth of field that was perfectly in sync with just your two foreground items and then a beautiful bokeh in the back.
Right.
Now I've been able to identify in front with the ones that I want to have in focus, and now as I go up here, you'll see that the background will go to f1, it goes very blurred to fully in focus. And you'll see that as I change that, the two subjects which I had highlighted in focus spread stay the same. Those are always in focus. This gives you an amazing amount of creativity to be able to work on identifying only the layers that you want. In wedding, one of my favorite examples is the bride and then the groom and then the ring bearer. You can animate and have a very shallow depth of field on the bride, then you go to the groom and he's only in focus, and then you go to the ring bearer and he's only in focus, and then you pull out and everybody's in focus in the end. Great storytelling.
You can literally do that in how long?
Well, that took that takes 10 seconds to, as long as the depth map is, if your image is taken with a good sense of depth, then it's a very easy thing to do inside the software.
That's insane, because I mean, usually when you shoot something like that, and if you want to do something like that, you literally have to think about what you want to do, and then afterwards bring it into Photoshop, and hours and spending so much time even isolating the subjects. Yep. Here you just do it simply by sliding a bar.
Yep. It's because of this depth map, and you'll see, I'll just quickly show you, this gives you a visual representation of the different layers of depth that we've captured. This depth map doesn't exist anyplace else, and because of that capability, we're able to manipulate the image and give you the ability to do things that you can't do in a 2D world. In addition, because you've captured such great depth, you can actually render every single image. Excuse me, I'm going to fix this one real quick. In a sec.
So this camera can basically do things that no other camera in the world can do.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. What I like to call the gravy, because it's just an add-on in my mind that's an unbelievable add-on, is every single image you take can be rendered in 3D. So you can do this, anaglyph, the blue and red, or you can do side-by-side if you have a 3D TV that will compress them in. So that's one of the things we're showing. In a wedding environment, it's great to think of doing your pre-shot, and then everybody comes to the reception, and you can actually have 3D playing, have your guests interacting, seeing the bride and groom in 3D that you've taken in your pre-shot routine is really a very compelling experience.
Well, man, I'm actually speechless with the amount of things that you could do with this camera. I mean, that camera alone, f2.8 constant from, what was the zoom range?
It's a f2, and it's a 30 to 250 range.
f2, excuse me. And then pair that with this software, which comes for free, and everything else that you could do with it, that's insane.
Well, we agree. We agree. Maybe we should charge more.
Well, thank you so much for showing us what you guys are all about, and I hope our viewers can better understand, like me, what is possible and what this camera is capable of doing. So this is the iPad app. Why don't you show us more with what it can do?
Sounds good. What's important is that it's the entire ecosystem. So especially a professional photographer, you want to be able to share images in a lot of different ways. You can share your images on the web, you can share them, post them to Facebook or to Twitter, or you can share them on this iPad app, which is a free download from the App Store. And when you go into the app, you'll see images that are going to be streamed from Lytro from a lot of different users and pros around the world. But you can also go into the images that you've uploaded. And in this case, we've uploaded all of our images from our recent photo shoot at our wedding. And in this particular case, if my Wi-Fi connection is going to be good here. Wonderful. That's not our fault, by the way. This is the Wi-Fi here. There we go, Mr. Wi-Fi. So you'll see that there's a very dynamic way of showing this. As you see, I'm rotating the iPad just slightly, and it's taking advantage of the accelerometer, which then takes advantage of the perspective shift that was captured in the image. Because you have 3D depth map, you're able to actually create this perspective shift. So it's very dynamic. Now, you're a customer, you've just got your wedding images uploaded, and you're looking at them on the iPad app. You want to kind of experience them, so you can click any place on the image and change the focus point. Now, if I want to change the entire depth of field, all I do is twist and turn. Now I have everything fully in focus, or I have a very shallow depth of field. Now, of course, I can also animate through all these images here, and whatever I want to as a photographer, when I've taken them and uploaded them, the animation sequence that I've done is automatically shown to the customers. It will go through on this slideshow like this. If it's your shots that you've taken in addition, on any image, you can email them, send them via message, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Or you can actually copy the URL and embed it into an HTML blog. So maybe you've written about your wedding, or you've written about your client's wedding. You can talk about the wedding and then embed the links to the images themselves. And when you do that, then they're able to be manipulated by the customer. The customer on the web can click through, change the depth of field, see perspective shift on their own, and kind of have an interactive experience.
What I love about this is, as a viewer, the images shown is so dynamic. It's like things that you would spend hours and hours on, and it just does it automatically.
Yep. And it's just really about the entire ecosystem. It's being able to share your images. That's what's most important, right? It's why Instagram's so popular. We want to share our experiences. And especially in a situation like this, like in wedding or portrait photography, you want to tell a story. And it gives you a different level of storytelling that's not possible in 2D.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, that's